Hello, everyone. I am Kat, and this is Cosmic Metamorphosis. Thank you for tuning in today. I have exciting information from Alex Colliers' last webinar from February 4th, number 150. There's a lot of information about the quantum system, and wow, kind of blew my mind. So I hope everyone is feeling well today. For me, I just feel really tired because it's just very cloudy and yucky and rainy today. Yesterday was gorgeous and beautiful. And then today, of course, it's raining. If you see any little wisps of smoke, that's my sage burning over here to the side. So lots and lots of exciting things happening, guys. Man, a lot of this information coming from Alex, it just, like I said, it blew my mind because it just made so much sense. And this is like the puzzle pieces are falling together so perfectly. I do want to tell you about a really quick transmission that I got probably a week and a half ago when I was in between that sleep state and being awake. And I just got a message saying to me that we are crossing soon. And then I had two dreams that basically in that dream, I knew we were in a new world. And at this point, I can't remember the details. It was pretty similar to what we're in now, but it was different. And I knew it was a different world. So I had two dreams like that. So I think something, and when I read this to you, it's gonna make sense. It did to me. Anyway, he says the current stats. Again, this is from Alex Colliers, the Brighteon webinar number 150 from February 4th of 2022. He said, current stats is to remind everyone you are watching a movie. Remember that. He says, right now there's more speculation than intel because we are at the end of the movie. Neither side is going to telegraph what they are doing. That is why you're seeing the collapse of this Khufu narrative worldwide. And if you've been paying attention and you've been following the alternative media, you do see that everywhere around the world. And you see the Canadians protesting the truckers everywhere, worldwide. It is insane. And I just love watching those videos. And they're out there at night, like just dancing, having a party, and everyone's happy and helping each other and in love and unity. And it's so great. It is so great to see that. It just warms my heart and it makes me cry. So great humanity. You are wonderful. So he says, yeah, we are at the end of the movie. He said it is the destruction of the media, education, parliaments. We're dealing with all these prime ministers' insanity, the politicians, the doctors, Hollywood. He said it's all imploding. He said, and this is important before we get to the quantum information. So it's important for people to understand that the intention of the Democrats was to lock us down for 7 to 8 years. 7, 8 years. We've just been in it 2 years and people are losing their minds. So can you imagine 7 to 8 years? He says, so they were supposed to lock us down 7 to 8 years and then implode the global economy and then push the reset button, basically forgiving all debts, but you own nothing. And basically they own it all and they will lease it to us, but they will own it all. Makes me angry. He said the treatment, this is causing millions to die off. And that was the plan. He said, now you're watching economies of the world collapse intentionally by the white hats to destroy the fiat currency system and the deep state cabal, deep system, debt system globally. He said, everything that is wrong with the world is 90% due to the currency system we have been living under. So it started in debt, and that carries a negative frequency. And then he kind of gave an example. He said, basically, if you have a loan for $100, you have to pay back 106. That's $6 of interest, basically, is never printed. It's still a debt, and you have to borrow it. So it keeps accumulating debt, and it's a negative frequency. He said the intention was the enslaving of all of humanity between wars, trafficking, and it all carries that negative frequency and debt, and the system has to collapse. Those who have been earmarked or tagged for crimes against humanity, when the fiat system collapses, they go broke. And you're seeing that right now with all, especially in Hollywood, you're seeing this, of all of these celebrities' homes for sale. I just saw a post the other day about the US Marshals having an auction, and it was really fancy cars or like really old time cars, like collectibles. They're being sold off. Their property is gone. They don't have it anymore. No more. I just have to laugh. Hybrids and human hybrids sold out humanity. He says, and that's the head of the snake. He says it'll be cut off. I think it's already been cut off. We are seeing that. If you know where to look, it's happening. There's so much happening. He said many countries have been moving towards an asset-backed currency. All treaties that screwed them out of wealth, heritage, and put them into debt were written on the US dollar, fiat dollar. So when that collapses, all that system is null and void. So everyone starts out fresh. New treaties will share with the global reserve title and will benefit all. He said 4 to 5 days ago, which was last week sometime, all banks in the Treasury system signed an NDA. An NDA is a non-disclosure act. They all have new US notes, not the US dollar, US notes in their vaults right now. He said soon, we don't know when, the day or time, they will slowly exchange the fiat money with the new USN-backed money. And we will go back to the constitutional currency, which was in 1792. He said many distractions going on while this is going on. Of course, look here, not there. He said there's a lot of religious hysteria going on right now as to like the end of the world. And he says it's not the end of the world that's coming. He says what's coming is a change in the world. And it starts with consciousness. He says to change our own lives, we have to change the way we think about ourselves and our lives. Same thing with the world. When humanity's consciousness changes, the world changes with it also. He says that's the cosmic common sense 101. He said, I've said this so many times over 30 years that the current King James Bible has been changed and altered so many times, thousands of major discrepancies. From the Caesars, all the popes, the priesthoods, he says, all rewrote their own Bibles. The word of God is in your heart. That's where it's always been, and that's where you will always find it. Your heart is where God resides, not in a book, You are a reflection of the source, the creator, the way you act, the way you treat others, what you say, what you do is a reflection in you. If you don't like that reflection, he says, it's not source, it's you. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what the fuck? That was funny. The answers have always been on the inside. If you don't like something, forgive it, let it go, and make the change. And I'm going to add in here, like there's been a thing that's been going around too about like, let that shit go. Like just let it go. If it doesn't serve you and you don't feel good about it, just release it and let it go. And I know it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do for humans to let things go because we want to hold on to it, you know. But yeah, once you let it go, then that weight just kind of falls off you. He said, falling from spirit. So all of us who fell from spirit into this physicality, this is a very tough school and no one's going to get it right, especially here on Earth where the game is so completely rigged against everything. How can you expect to possibly get it right, he says. When the rules change all the time, he says, you're not. You're expected to do your best and to love unconditionally all the time. Yes. He said, we all have better years than others. And see, that's the problem, is because we've been in this slave system and we've been so focused on just surviving, going to work, going to school, earning money to pay your bills and raise your kids. And, you know, we don't have time to look within. We don't have time to do what we want to do, to relax, to see things differently. They've done it on purpose. And in a way, like I said, this has been like the biggest awakening for people. Every time they try to take us down, it triggers something in humanity. And we, you know, those of us who are awake can step back and see the bullshit and be like, no, like you're awakening more and more and more, and you realize what's been going on. And we realize what matters. You know, it's not the job that matters, not the home you live in. It's not how much you have, the car you drive, what you look like. That doesn't matter at all. What matters is what's in here. How do you treat others? You know, loving each other, helping each other. So that's where we're going. He gave a story about the 100th monkey effect, basically. He said during World War II, the Japanese, they had some remote islands, and these monkeys lived on these islands, and they would fly over and drop potatoes to the monkeys, and the monkeys would go and run and grab and eat them, he said. And then one day, a female, he said the feminine, of course, monkey took the potato and took it to the water and washed all the sand and the rocks off. And all the monkeys saw this and started to do the same thing. He says, what's interesting is that within a few weeks, other islands many miles away had monkeys that started doing the same thing. He said, now these monkeys didn't swim to another island. He said it was consciousness, sharing and bridging of consciousness. All things are connected, always have been and always will be. So now we're going to get into the quantum goody stuff. So he said, quantum financial system, or the quantum. He says, those of us that are aware and not affected by distractions, we are aware of the new technology being put into space, all the new satellites, and is continuously going up and being integrated into our everyday lives. He says to make this palatable, they are referring it to QFS because this equipment, which is able to manage its own data, is far beyond anything we have on the surface. Everything on the surface is corrupted. Yes, it is. Many banks are having to upgrade hardware and software due to the merging of the new system. And I have noticed that over the last several months, all of the banks around here, I'm sure you've noticed around you, they are all upgrading their systems. Talk about a new internet system, more informational, more accurate, faster, more open network. He said Microsoft, Google, etc., they're all tainted and they were used for surveillance. He says there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to this quantum than we think. He said, what is light? Light is sound waves. Quantum is a field of sound waves. The only reason the QFS is going up is because the consciousness of humanity has left third density and is moving into fourth density. Yes. In other words, the frequency bands already exist. They are already here. So we are already merging into 4D, guys. So that the quantum system can already engage with those higher consciousness fields. He says, if we were still stuck in 3D, we could not use the quantum system. There will be nothing for it to connect to, which I thought was really interesting. And it makes a whole lot of sense. He says, basically right now it's engaging in 3D, but the backbone of the quantum system is in fourth density. He says, what else can it do? You have a system that can introduce ideas to humanity in such a way that it can naturally seed down and become organic consciousness within humanity itself. Wow. It's a part of the mentoring system that's in place now. And once the quantum is up and working, shifts in consciousness will occur and appear to be completely organic, stemming from humanity itself. If you follow my channel, and Alex said back on January 1st of this year, the quantum system started. What's happened in the last month and a half? Lots of positive changes. A couple of videos ago, I woke up on a Monday morning. I said, something has changed. It feels way more positive. And ever since like the beginning of January, we've seen this. We've seen the shift. We've seen humanity waking up, starting with the Canadian truckers, okay? And then everyone's following. You know why? Because it's that universal consciousness. We are all connected. We're all connected now. So this, what he says, totally blew my mind. And I'm like, this so makes sense. This is why people are waking up. This is why people are fighting back, because they're seeing, they're knowing that what we've been living under has been crap and is not the way we're supposed to be living. So he says, Earth, humanity, and the cosmos will be all integrated. Source is also assisting with 5 density consciousness and can be an exchange of ideas or movement of consciousness empowered by humanity itself. All they are doing is planting the seed and allowing humanity to run with it. He said, it is not AI, so don't freak out. This is not AI. He said, it is not mind fucking control. He said, none of that. It is not that. He said, you have to understand frequencies are rising. We are on the ascension path, not the descension path. It cannot be stopped. It will not be stopped. And I'm going to throw in there, nothing can stop what is coming. Even those stuck in the dissension loop and negativity in their little end of the world scenario, they are going to create their reality and remove themselves from this hologram or they will stop and say, oh shit, I got this all wrong, he said. Then they will start and get on the ascension path. Everybody has free will to make their choices, but you must pay attention to what is going on. He said, and not everybody is, and you can't make them. Some people are just too, he says, some people are just too stupid and will never figure it out. He said, all you can do is bless them, wish that whatever comes to them is for their highest good, and that's all you can do. Okay. The quantum system of fourth density is clearly fully engaged in our world, and it is here now. He says we are locked into fourth density consciousness. We also have some 5D consciousness that are observing and engaging ever so lightly with us right now. They don't want to engage humanity with ideas too quickly. They want humanity to empower itself. And they want humanity to want this. He says this technology, this quantum technology is not new, but it's new to us here, and it was used in other systems. The quantum system will eventually no longer exist. He said humanity will be the system collectively. We are right now observing and saying and knowing what we don't want, and we are beginning to see and know what we do want. See? Which is why we are seeing a separation of consciousness. He said one side is going to talk about it, and the other side is, no, it just has to be done this way. And they will not deviate from the box. He said they're going to be in a world of hurt soon. He said, but they can always change their minds. I don't think a lot of them will, though. He said the quantum system is not about the money. Or basically, it's not just the financial system. It is going to be used for that, but it will take us from where we are now to where we are going to be. How long does it take? What does it look like? No one will know. It all depends on humanity. He said, clearly understand this. Humanity is in the driver's seat. And soon, when it comes time to reestablish governments worldwide, local, some national, not all countries will have national governments and a global government. It's going to be humanity that will dictate what it is and what it isn't. He says, at that point, humanity will begin to understand because we will have more information coming into our spiritual realm of Earth from fifth density and possibly sixth density. The quantum system will be giving us information. In the beginning, we may see the big ships out there, I said, but it doesn't mean they're going to land. Doesn't mean that they will interact, but they will let themselves be known. He says this is not about them, it's about us, humanity. It's always been about us. It's being put into place because it's believed this is the best system to help humanity shift and shake off shackles and help empower us. What this system is going to do to the children, he said, is remarkable and in some ways unmeasurable because children are already so open. But when they begin to truly understand that they have no limits, and begin to exercise their own personal power in a very divine way, and they see the results manifest physically, it's what humanity was meant to do all along. As parents and grandparents, as mentors and forefathers, foremothers, we are going to be profoundly proud of them. And I see it. I see it. It makes me want to cry now, and I'm going to cry then. We will realize humanity is on its way. We will realize we did what we came here to do. Again, we are the boots on the ground. We are ground crew Terra, okay? Yeah. We came here to do what we needed to do to free hearts, minds, and souls on this incredible planet. Earth is conscious, and it will also be getting into information from the fourth density and fifth density. She will be making changes herself, such as weather patterns, creating and introducing new land masses all over. She could introduce new life forms, vegetation that humanity could eat and learn to grow. We still have 9,000 trees that haven't been identified yet. I said, I bet you didn't know that. I didn't know that. There's so much that we'll be changing and adapting to. He says, the quantum system is here to engage us in a way that we can truly begin to understand what it truly means to directly engage with Source. No intermediaries, no one to intervene on your behalf, such as the church. It's you and Creator. What matters is your intention. These were obstacles designed to be put in our way to slow us down, and it worked. If you do follow Quantum Truths JCK, she's very good to follow. She has wonderful information. I will put a link to this video. She did a video last year. She did, the first one was a dowsing that she did with her pendulum. It was her number 123. And then her number 126, Q is God. She talks about the letter 17, which we all think is the military intelligence, which to us it's military intelligence, but she said Q, and I'm thinking that this is the quantum is Source, is God. So for Alex to verify that blew my mind too. So I'll put her link to that video of hers in the description below, so you can follow that. Quantum can also introduce new life forms, such as aquatic, fowl, and vegetation, all kinds of things. He says those in fifth density mentoring without their, so there are people or beings in the fifth density that are mentoring without intervention. And they can see how our consciousness is rising and expanding and how it's uniting humanity, and how specific soul groups are forming to be able to take humanity to the next level, or to use other groups looking to solve issues of the past, such as healing and treating the earth. He says ETs have the technology to clean the planet overnight, but that's not how it will happen. Humanity has been detached from Mother Earth too long, and mostly because of all the wars, and we're forced to live in cities, all the propaganda from the media, etc. He said, if we engage in healing the planet as a civilization, we will get to know her better than we've ever known before. We will go everywhere on her surface and underground and realize what a remarkable being she is. And we will be doing it ourselves. We will be doing everything in nature and with nature ourselves. And we will be taking care of her as if she was a nursery. So here again, I've talked about it before. We will go back to, we will be looking at the indigenous and the native peoples, because they know how to work with the earth, okay? They know the plants, they know the seasons, they know everything. They were connected. We've been detached from her for so long. We need to reattach to our mother. And he says, and in response, she will return that kindness with abundance and prosperity that we have never known. So heaven will come to earth, right? So the quantum system is far more than what we think it is. And he says the money part of it is the least of it. He said the sharing of information, at some point we won't need the internet. We will be the internet. All of us connected together. Once the third strand of DNA turns on, and then your younger generations are using telepathy and they begin to teach us, he says, old fossils about telepathy. That's when we all become the internet. We won't need that technology at all. And I swear, yeah, me and my daughter, especially years ago too, when she was little, like I swear she would think something and I would hear it. Like she's already got that telepathy going, me and her connected that way. She'll be like, I told you this. And I'll be like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't say it out loud. Or, you know, I'll say, well, I said that. And she'll be like, no, you didn't. Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, we do telepathy a lot with each other. He says, so much is going on. It's all good, guys. It's all good. He says, turn off TVs, anything promoting negative or fearful things. He said, basically starve them. They thrive on your fear. Do not be fearful. They thrive on it. Just focus on what you want. He said, especially the kids. He said, ask the kids, what do you want? What would make you happy today? Let's do that. Get people to think for themselves, unconditionally being responsible for oneself without being coerced by a higher authority. We all have our own minds, our own journey, our own paths. Use it. Use your mind. What do you want? What can you manifest? He says it all comes back to that. The quantum system is here to assist with that. It's not there to take over, he says, or fuck with our minds. We've already been through that. Why would they release us from that and then put us back under another system when they already had us? He says it's just noise. It's just talking heads. He says the white hats are in control on the surface and above the surface. No need to panic, just trust source. We are all in God's hands right now, he says, and thank God for that. And then he laughs and he says, my job as a shit show supervisor, I want to quit. It's just too much. I want to quit. I'm done too. I want to quit. I've been wanting to quit for a long time. Okay. So that was the meat of it. And then there's some questions. So first question, there was a lot more questions in this, but I picked out some of the questions that the answers we haven't heard before. Some of them were just repetitive, so I didn't write those down. So question, have the elites really been arrested behind the scenes, and when will it be made public? And his answer was, I think some of them have. Clearly, some of them are clones or doubles. Have they all been executed at Gitmo? I don't know that. I do not have any hard evidence of that, he says. Those questions will be answered shortly, though, I think. Once the military makes its move, those things will be made clear, what they were being charged with and what their intentions were. He said, and once basically the public finds out what these people have been doing, there will be a shout from humanity so loud that it will probably reach heaven. He says, I know there's lots of YouTube and Rumble channels that talk about executions, and I follow them. I find it interesting, but I don't have any hard evidence that specific people are dead just yet. So, and then another question, how do you see the truckers' convoys around the world? Will we see any outcome soon? His answer was, you are regaining your freedom as we speak. Truckers are not going to back down. He says, even the Prime Minister asked the military to intervene, and this was in Canada, and the military replied they would not be involved in doing anything with that protest. So they basically told him no. Essentially, what they said to the government was, "You're done," when the military declined. It's about situational awareness, he says. He says it's over. It's just playing itself out. Trudeau will either be impeached or he will resign. That's what the outcome will be. The citizens have the military on their side. He says, so you've got your freedom, you just don't recognize it yet. He says, I commend the truckers and stick with it. He says, in the United States, the US can't be far behind. Remember, we are on an ascending trajectory. Next question, what did the cabal achieve by changing the calendar from Julian to Gregorian? And is there a necessity to change it back? His answer was, that's a really interesting question. With only 25% of my brain cells working, because he's just getting over being really sick, he says, I don't know why the church, and he says it was the Church of Rome that did that change. He says, I don't know exactly why and why it is necessary for us to go back. Why would it be? The dates are irrelevant. What matters is that you are alive and present now. To me, that's relevant. He says, who gives a shit about the date? All of these systems are falling away anyways. Why would we fix it when it's going away anyway? That's just me, he says. I would just want people to stay focused on the ascending frequency. He says, once you get into fifth density, the past, present, and future are all happening at the same time. Does the date actually matter then? No, it really doesn't. So yeah, pretty interesting question. I kind of shortened this one down because it was quite long, but the question basically was, there's benevolent beings in our solar system that are assisting in our ascension. Are the inner earth beings doing the same for us? And he says, even though we are not aware that they exist, or at least 95% of people are not aware anyways, that we have inner earth beings, we still have a symbiotic relationship with them. What we do on the surface does affect them. Those of us aware of them and have met them, he says, our frequency is never the same. So we are already engaged in the relationship with them. He says, just because some people don't know doesn't mean it doesn't exist. He says, I don't know how that will play out. Again, let me reiterate something I said many moons ago. We, humanity, are supposed to have and take custodianship of the earth herself. We technically do not have a home, but through this process of emergence and awakening and this transition we are going through from third density into fourth density and onto fifth density, we will be in a position to ask for a conservatorship of the earth herself. So our humanity will always have a home. Do you understand that? He says, this is a really big deal. This means this planet, Earth, will be our home. And the earth and us, regardless of dimensions, will always be connected. Even if our bodies were created somewhere else, my cat's moving the computer, I'm sorry. Even if our bodies were created somewhere else, Earth will be our permanent home for humanity. We can petition for an appropriate council. He says, I don't know if that will be Andromedan or Galactic Council somewhere, because a lot of things are changing out there as well. We can petition for conservatorship of Earth and make Earth our permanent home. So next question, Elena Danan talks about the arcs all over the planet. The arcs are these ships. What can you say about them? Basically, I kind of shortened that one too, but he says that's her lane. she talks about that stuff, not really him. But he says, but I can say that they are everywhere. He says, the Star Wars story is real. He says, we had a group called the Black League, a group of rebels that were simply not going to submit to the Orion Empire or Draconian Empire. It was called the Black League because we hid in the shadows and used guerrilla warfare and attacked from behind enemy lines and things of that nature. He said we were extremely successful for a very, very long time. I knew since I was little Star Wars was real too. It's just validating all this. Some of these Black League ships are on Earth. They are hidden in mountains and underground caverns. They are here. There's a lot to be uncovered. He says lots of cool stuff. Not only does it have a story, but it has a cool history too. And that will be shared with all of humanity. He says it's all good. So that was exciting. I didn't know about that. Next question, does our 5D universe look different from our 3D universe? And his answer is yes, it's completely different. It's bigger, more expansive, triple the light color we have per density. No such thing as time. You can live thousands and thousands of years with a single body. You have the ability to jump dimensions, including timelines as well. 5D has basically when you experience something such as music, your entire being resonates with it. He said you're like a bell. And just the fact that he mentioned like being able to time travel or jump dimensions and timelines totally reminds me of like the books. If you follow the letter, 17th letter, the books about Baron Trump being the time traveler, or the last president book. So all that, I think the Trump family are time travelers. I think they are from higher densities, and they have come here to help us, to help humanity. And we will find that out. And even if you follow like Yellow Rose for Texas, she does say in one of her videos that we will find out who that family truly is when all this disclosure comes out and how important they are. He says fifth density, he says it's all telepathic. He says there's authenticity there that I simply cannot say enough about. So it's healing because all you have to do is be authentic. So all these fake people, these people running around pretending to be someone else because their ego is so big and they're just fake, they're gonna have a really hard time, because 5D is being your true self. He says, because there's nothing wrong with us. It's just about being real and authentic. And he says, everything is real and authentic. And I want to say more, but the words just aren't there. Like he couldn't express in words, like the feeling of it. He says, it's as close to heaven as I have ever been. Not saying it is heaven, it's just as close as I've ever been, hands down. He says, hence why I never want to come back to 3D. But we are here and we are climbing the ladder of ascension to get back to fifth density. It's kind of like that one dream I had a long time ago about being with my family, with these beings that were so tall and so thin, and they were all blonde and kind of all looked alike to him, but I knew one of them was my daughter, and they were all like, it was a girl group, and they were all getting on the ship, getting ready to go do some kind of sporting event or something, and just being there in that presence, and it was all loving, and no one was fake, and everybody, by the time I woke up from that dream, I bawled so hard. I cried and cried and cried because I didn't want to be here. I wanted to go back there so bad. So I know what I know how he feels. Next question, what role will precious metals play in the quantum financial system, and will those that purchase silver see a substantial return on their investment? And his answer is, well, I'm not a financial consultant and I don't have a license to tell anyone what to do or what not to do. He says, what I do have is experience. And he says those metals will be used in a lot of new technology that will be released from black budgets and special access programs. He says the key metal in much of these electronics will be silver. So will those who have silver see a return on their money? He said unequivocally, yes. Yes, they will. He said soon. He said he was thinking, he said within 2 to 3 weeks, it will be in the $200 to $300 range. I'm taking that's an ounce. He says it could happen that quickly. He said same as gold, but again, gold has always been looked upon as a monetary element. Once we move out of needing a monetary system, he says gold will be irrelevant. I can't talk today. It won't matter. We won't be needing it for that, he says. Silver, however, as we continue to use technologies, we will need silver. Silver compared to gold will be higher in the long run because of all of its industrial uses. He says, that's my opinion. Next question. You and Elena talk about ET disclosure coming. Are you aware of what format that will take? Will it be a gentle phase in or a rip the Band-Aid off type of approach? As for myself, I can't wait. His answer is, it may be a little of both. I think there will be civilians working with Space Force, and there will be a coordinated effort to forward this information in a very professional way. Information shared will be extremely thorough, backed up by history and experiences that both civilizations on the surface of the planet, as well as military personnel and their experiences with the benevolent. I think it's all good. It's all going to be good, and that's how I see it. In some aspects, disclosure is already occurring. Lots of new videos of ships in our atmosphere and other things. So we know that. Again, if you haven't gone to Gina Marie Colvin Hill on YouTube, she does many, many videos about ships out there. She gets some good pictures. And the plasma beings that are here, she catches all kinds of things. Next question. You said current crypto will be no longer. Is it because of nefarious origins? And he says, that's my understanding. And again, I am no financial consultant thereof, but many of the current cryptocurrencies are based on the fiat system. That means they are valued by nothing. That's what that means. In order to make them digital and asset backed, they would have to be backed by genuine assets, not half and half asset backed. He says, how many cryptocurrencies will actually be backed up by assets? That's the question you have to ask yourself. If only 10% is backed by the actual assets or metals, etc., then it's okay. But if the other 90% was only backed by something with fiat money, you might want to think about moving that. You have to do your own research, because when you take down the fiat system, it will be overnight. When they take down that system, it will be overnight, he says. We are seeing it degrade already. Whatever you have in any of that will be gone. He says, I don't know about stocks and bonds. Will they transition one for one or be a completely different ratio? It's hard to say. We've never been here before. That's on you to figure out, he says. And he said, Jim Willie is a good one to follow about all that stuff. Stocks and bonds and cryptos, I guess. So his name's Jim Early. Next question, do you think we will have to wait until November midterm to see something big happen? Thought by now we would have seen something, which again, like a lot is going on. It's just kind of behind the scenes. Besides the trucking movement, he says, I simply cannot see it going that far. He says, because of all of the election machines are out there still and rigged, why bother? He says, no, I don't. I feel like it's imminent. People are saying that after the Olympics, and Trump even brought it up in his Texas speech, he's like, was it a calm? That's the question. Waiting until, he says, I think they're waiting until all athletes go back to their own countries. We will have to see. He says, I don't talk to the letter 17 team, so I have no special intel. Again, this is 5D chess. 3D to 4D, coordinated, top down, extremely strategic and timing. He says it's all about the timing. Question. When you would have the A's, Andromedans, when you would leave them, they would say to you, be at one. I'm curious to learn, what does that mean to you? And his answer was, to be at one with the isness. Remember my place. Remember who I am. Remember to be in the moment. He says, when they communicate telepathically, they give you an entire concept. So be at one meant all those things simultaneously. They would always remind me of that many times. I had a hard time coming back. They would always say that to me, even if I was here in 3D and they were in the fifth. We are still connected. We are still one. Just as they are with Source and me with Source, regardless of the dimensions. On a soul level, we are all connected. The only reason we think that is that we actually think that we're alone. He says we never are alone, and it's all a matter of perspective. I think we have one more question. Okay, last question. What can you tell us about Venus, and what not commonly known to astronomers? What beings may live there below the surface? And his answer was, a guy named Tom answered it. So he says, okay, Tom, good question. There is fourth and fifth dimensional life on Venus. There's also third dimensional and fourth life inside the planet. He said, I'm not sure how much astronomers actually know or how much they're allowed to say. He says, now, Russians have been pretty open in the past. He says they talk about some of their satellites in Venus, and they have spent a lot of time exploring Venus. And he says because they are familiar with the history and the relationship of the Chaldeans, well, the relationship basically that the Chaldeans had with the Titans, aka Venetians. So the Titans apparently were the Venetians. He says, so they are aware of that history. He says, Russians pay attention to history. Russian satellites picked up oxygen in the Venetian atmosphere. He says that's supposed to be 10,000 degrees and sulfuric acid. That's what we've been told. He says that's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. He says I have a burr under my saddle about Venus, and that is They've been here all this time and we've been neighbors, so why haven't they helped us sooner? They're our next door neighbors. Why haven't they helped us sooner? And that's a very interesting question. There was a picture that Yellow Rose for Texas had of Venus and the Earth. This was a few weeks ago, and there was actually, I don't remember if they shot at us and we shot back, but there's definitely, they did something to piss Earth off because we shot back at them. So if I can find where that is, I'll link it below. But so it's interesting that he talks about Venus and them like being our neighbors and not helping us. So obviously they've been, you know, there all along. Why haven't they helped us? It's a good question. So lots and lots of so much information about the quantum system. Hopefully that answers a few questions for you guys. I just got so much information out of that and lots of puzzle pieces falling together for me on that. So anyway, I'm sorry I didn't have a video last week. I worked a lot. I had one day off and I was so tired. I didn't have the time to do a video. So I'm off for a few days. Yeah, I won't go into that. Just let me put it this way, that I'm waiting for this mask mandate to go away. I've been getting lots of migraines because my job requires me to wear one, and I really didn't want to wear one at all, but I have to pay my bills, so I have to have a job where I have to wear one, and I was literally getting a migraine every other day from wearing that, and I had enough of it on Friday. I was told to lift it over my nose. I can't even breathe out of my nose half the time, but that's the only way I could somewhat get some oxygen. And I was told to lift it over my nose, and I had had enough. So I came home and contacted my doctor to get a mask exemption letter. So I turned that into my boss this weekend. And of course, no one's in HR with retail till Monday. So I haven't heard anything back, and I may not for a week or so, but I don't plan to go back unless I can not wear this. I'm in Idaho. We don't have a mask mandate. And as far as I know, businesses in the state you're in have to abide by the state laws and rules. And if my state doesn't have a mask mandate, then I shouldn't have to wear one at work. So even though they think they can tell you to. And being that I do have a medical exemption for it, yeah, we'll see what they say. So anyway, I have been not working all weekend. So anyway, big things are coming, guys. It's very positive. Things are looking up. Humanity is coming together, and we are going to make it through this. It's going to be fabulous, and I'm so excited, and I'm still manifesting for a wonderful world on my end and for everyone else. So thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you. If you like this, share this with people. I hope you all stay well, stay encouraged, don't give in to the fear. And I love all of you guys. You are my soul family. And I wish I could give every one of you a great big hug right now, because I think everybody needs to be loved and feel loved right now. So I love all of you. Thank you so much. And hopefully we will see you next week. Thank you.